Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're doing the first ever Indie Tuesday reviews. Now, a quick rundown of what this is before we begin. This is a review, of course, for any indie games I've done so far every week. I'll explore everything that's on my mind of the game and then give it a solid 1 out of 5. So, let's begin. First on the list, Mosaic, a game about a man and the horrors of adult life. Mosaic, quoted by the creators, is a dark, surrealistic, and atmospheric adventure game about an urban isolation and the dread of being a piece in a giant machinery you can't understand. This was my first game on my channel, so I thought it'd be appropriate to do this one first. Mosaic was honestly a trip for me. Like, literally a trip on drugs. It was fun and crazy through and through. The art and graphics were honestly unlike anything I've ever seen before. Other than that, it was so abstract that I found it beautiful in certain points of the game. Like when you're floating in the air and the sun is just so close yet so far away. It was all very beautiful. You're just floating in the clouds. Moments like that, all of it was very pleasing for the eyes, and I would love to see games have more of this style, especially the moments in the game where you're just going through and you see this giant grand view of all the clogs in this giant machine that our character is working in. Like, I could take a picture of those scenes and I would believe it's art. But what about the sound and audio? Well, nothing amazing, but they were simple and nice. I liked them. The sound effects were great. Most notably for me is when we're running through the subway station and there's all these feet are just trying to stomp on us, and somehow we're able to get through. We hear all the sound effects and the ground shake and everything. That was very nice for me. And I also really loved the music whenever we're playing as the butterfly, and as we're going through, we hear this kind of hopeful music, and then it gets shredded, and all my hopes go away, along with the tone of the music. And I thought those were all very good examples of how they use sound effects and music. Other than that, the game isn't replayable in my opinion, but I don't think it was meant to be at all. It's meant to be a story through and through. It's just supposed to tell it once. Maybe you can come back and pick it up again if you really wanted to, but it isn't meant to be replayable for achievements or anything. Meanwhile, I have nothing notable to say of mechanics. It was a point-and-click adventure, nothing we haven't seen before, and nothing that hindered the game in my opinion. But what about the story and characters? These were the things the game focused on more than anything. And while they were simple, they were also a delight for me and drove me home with what the creators were trying to sell. I'll be going with the names of the characters that I made to make it easier on me. So for the protagonist, Steve was very easy for me to sympathize with. He was a normal guy who didn't seem to fit in and was unhappy with his day-to-day life. I could relate with him on going to a workplace and doing the same task over and over and over again, being, well, unhappy with it. While the character didn't have much personality, he was someone you could easily relate to. Meanwhile, you had Ian, the imaginary talking goldfish. Essentially, he was in Steve's head trying to give him advice. Ian pushes for Steve to do what he always wants to do. Change. He knows Steve is unhappy and that his life sucks, and tells him to get up and do something about it. Mosaic's story intention is to tell you that life really sucks, but it doesn't have to. That you can get up and change whatever situation you dislike in your life. While the game was nothing groundbreaking, it was great. And as a final verdict, I give it a solid 4 out of 5. Rise of Insanity, a horror game about a patient suffering from, you guessed it, insanity. What did I think of this game? Well, it wasn't bad, but nothing I was really impressed with. The graphics were okay, and the mechanics were simple walk around and pick stuff up like any other classic horror game. Looking at you, Amnesia. Other than that, it was pretty bland. The only things I found noteworthy were the music, which I loved, at least the intro music, which they proceed to have in the game. And the voice actors were pretty well delivering their lines. I always loved whenever I picked up a recording, and I was always just on the edge of my seat, just hear what was next. I don't know, I always have a fascination with recordings. But other than that, it just wasn't my thing. Now, this is a horror and an adventure game, so did it do what it intended? Well, kinda. The horror aspect was okay, but I think it could have been better. I never really jumped out of my seat, but my eyes did wander around, wondering when the next jump scare would happen. While others may enjoy jump scares, I found it overdone in the past years, like Five Nights at Freddy's, so on and so forth. The story, on the other hand, was, to say the least, unimpressive for me. I found out in the first few minutes of playing the game what the big twist was that they had later on, so it wasn't a great payoff. Overall, this game was underwhelming for me, so my final verdict is a 3 out of 5. Wick. Imagine playing as an object. This was done before in other games, most notably I Am Bread. But then some guy said, aha, but what if it were a horror game? And boom! Wick was made by some cool cats down in Florida. The mechanics were interesting. The character/candle named Wick, or Gene Wick, would melt whenever you walked around. To avoid melting, you had to stay in wax. This game stressed the hell out of me whenever I was walking normally, so put a monster chasing me into the mix, and you can understand why my scare meter went way up. This is awesome. The music was nothing amazing, just some very nice and sweet melodies that added to the atmosphere. Now, the story, if there is one, was very vague. It also did little to explain what was going on. The description in the Steam store at least says, or states, join Gene Wick in his quest to restore hope to a dying world by carrying on a dead monk's mission to fill the cathedral with light. While I know the story probably wasn't essential for the game, I wish they had expanded on it, because, I wasn't lost, but it was just, I don't know, it didn't seem relevant. Now, the AI had much to be desired. It just looked clunky as the scary nun crawled over to me. Another nitpick is, certain sections of the game I would lose the control of my character to do things like jump, which is essential for the game, mind you. Not much else to say. I think it's time to go on to the final verdict. This is a free game, and I highly suggest anyone to play it. It's a solid game for something made by such a small team in such a small time, 8 months to be exact. It's free, so you don't need to waste any money, but I'm going to judge this game like any other. While the music, visuals, and mechanics were nice, the lack of story, short playtime, glitches, and clunky AI pulled the game down for me. I give it a 2 out of 5. Can't wait to see what these guys do next time. I believe they will make something truly beautiful. Following suit, we have Space Court. Okay, we've gone over horror and sad dystopias. Now let's throw that all out the window and think of a game where it's just pure humor and a funny story. Let me just say, I was laughing my whole way through the playthrough and loved the choices the game presented. The music was awesome, the characters were clearly made well, and the humor always landed for me. While it was mostly a linear game, it had choices you could make for different endings, which were awesome. You could make life better for everyone, or you could just blast your problems away through other means. The characters you meet all have bizarre and different personalities that easily made me love them. My favorite character being Pork, the Gentle Giant. You could replay this game if you wanted to for different endings, and the game is straightforward with great music. My final verdict, while the game lacks things, which is the reason why I have really nothing more to explain in this game, it exceeds in the things it was planning to present itself with. Those three things being humor, story, and characters. It gets an A+ in all three categories with a sweet, short story. My only disappointment to point out is that it was not longer. 4 out of 5. Last but not least, Accident, the pilot. While I only played the first case in the game, as it was the demo, I got the gist of it. Overall, I really enjoyed it. It tried to be educational while still being an entertaining game. Essentially, you play as a journalist who is researching old car accidents. You help the victims, perform first aid, obtain evidence, and reconstruct the events to discover what really happened. Whether these are true stories or not, I'm unsure, and I'm not sure I want to know. The ending of my first case was not exactly a happy ending. The only nitpick I have is that some things seem more important in the game than what the steps told you to do. Like how it wanted you to put out the fire before getting everyone out of the vehicles. Now, I'm not some expert. I may be a total idiot, as I, in no way, have had proper training. But I would say that, like, personally, if I were in the situation, I would make sure everyone is safe first by getting them out of the vehicles. There's nothing more to truly note. It's just an educational game which does well in what it aims for. It's hard for me to rate a game like this because video games are usually just entertainment, while this is educational, different to the usual trend of video games being entertainment. But due to the fact that I was in a car crash the day after I posted the video of it, and that it actually gave me educational advice I used in real life on that day in the car crash, I believe it's amazing. 4 out of 5. Just wanted a special shout out to all of the developers that worked on these indie games. Links below for anyone who are interested in the games, or them. They always need the support. Even if I gave these games a low rating, I hope you guys still support them through and through. Thanks for watching my video, guys. If you guys want me to play anything, comment below, like if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you want to stick around. Till the next video, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and as always, you do you.